Start out in an all fours position, gently rocking your butt back toward your heels, tucking the toes in this all fours position and making sure your spine is neutral. This will just warm up the hips for squatting and lunging and just generally feel pretty good. And then next we will do a head nod. So you're looking all the way down toward your belly button, all the way up toward the ceiling, trying to keep your back very still and flat. So you'll notice I'm not doing any sort of undulation through the spine, but we will add that in next. So here you can do that traditional cat-cow, where you're curving your spine and then you're looking all the way up toward the ceiling. I would try exhaling as you do cat and then inhale as you look up to the ceiling, arching the spine, just getting some movement in each vertebrae and kind of, warming up your entire body, expressing movement through the spine. And then we're going to hold in that cat position, quadruped, all fours. And you're going to take some deep breaths in through the nose and think of filling your back with air, trying to get almost a lateral breath, right? Filling each side of the rib cage. And as you exhale, you're closing the rib cage, you're drawing the belly button up toward the spine, and you're really tucking the hips up and under. You should feel your abs engaged in that as well. So then we're going to go into a child's pose T-twist. So you want to rock back, attach your hand to your back, and then open up that elbow and twist and hold in that position. Deep breath in and a full exhale out, and see if you can twist a few more degrees. You can hold as long as you feel comfortable, as long as you feel like you're getting a good and decent stretch. And once you feel kind of stretched on one side, of course you can go ahead and switch to the other side, right? And that forearm is just planted in the ground. Again, think of twisting from the upper body, opening up that elbow, opening up the chest toward one side of the room, and breathing deeply in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth with all of these exercises. So next we're going to do a nice hip flexor stretch. I love this one. So you're in a half kneeling position, and what you want to note here is I'm actually really actively tucking my hips up and under, and I'm squeezing that back glute. So I'm driving that glute and hip forward and getting some nice hip extension. So you should feel kind of burning in that bottom quad, the leg that's on the ground, and in the top of the hip flexor area. And then here we're just deepening the stretch, right? So we're just taking out a little further. Of course, you don't have to lace your hands. You can place them down the ground if that feels more stable for you. And then we're going to go into a traditional runner's lunge. So framing that front foot, and then to deepen this, kind of a hip opener. So you're kind of walking that foot out, taking one hand and looping it underneath and trying to touch your sternum to your shoelaces is kind of a good way of thinking about it. So again, we'll go to the other side. We'll just touch upon some of those points here again. So I'm really, again, tucking my hips up and under. You can see I'm really tucking them up and under, so my spine is super neutral, right? I'm nice up and down, vertical spine position. And you can see as I'm exhaling, right, that my abs are really, really tightening, and I'm driving through that hip and squeezing that back glute. And that'll really give, again, that hip flexor, that front of that quad, a really nice stretch. And then just deepening that again here in this position. Don't push through this as much as possible, though. You're still trying to tuck the hip up and under at that point. And going down and proceeding into that runner's lunge position, taking the hand, looping it under the calf, and then again trying to touch sternum or center of chest to your shoelaces. Of course, you're not going to actually touch unless you're a contortionist for Cirque du Soleil, but that's the idea, right? We're opening up that hip and just getting a nice deep stretch. So now we're going to adductor rockbacks. That's the inside of the thigh. So you want to point your toe to the front of the room, of the leg that's extended. Tuck the back toe of the knee that's bent, and then just rock back, forward and backward as many times as feels good. You're going to get a stretch on the inside of that extended leg. And you can even sit back and just hold that position too, and just do a kind of a static stretch and breathe into it. Some of you might feel this like, hello, and other people might not get a super deep stretch out of this, and that's okay. It just depends on how tight your inner thighs are, your adductors are. But again, just ease into it. You don't want to feel, that it's so tight or so painful that you can't go on. So use your best judgment, breathe, and let yourself settle into this stretch. So then next we're going to go into just a down dog, traditional down dog stretch, planting the hands into the ground and pressing the heels through the earth. Try to think of pushing your chest through your shoulders toward your knees, right? And then we're going to go into a beast wave. So you can see I'm kind of undulating through the spine and I'm going back to this loaded beast position to start. Up to down dog. I'm starting this wave through my spine into this kind of extended plank looking up, and then starting the undulation from the head, neck, and then all the way through the spine again. Try this maybe about 3 times and try to really articulate through the spine each time. It just feels a really nice stretch. And if you feel it too much in your lower back, I would say try not to arch the back as much, right? This pigeon pose is an amazing stretch for the hip, so I suggest using the foam roller. And you'll see that both my legs are bent at 90-degree angles. So take a note in this modified position of where both of my legs are. And you're using that foam roller to assist in this stretch so that you're not just stuck in that position, because pigeon pose can kind of be intense for sure. So again, use your best judgment, ease into all of these stretches. It should feel good, kind of like a massage, right? Like hurts so good. But it shouldn't hurt so bad. It shouldn't feel like something's tearing or ripping or the will to live is leaving your body as you're doing these stretches. Now, this is a full pigeon pose. So if you have the mobility and you can get into this position, this is sort of like leveling up, right? So doing the exact same thing, except with our leg stretched out behind us. This will intensify that stretch a little bit. You'll feel this in that front leg hip. So the leg that is bent and tucked underneath us is where you're going to feel this. And again, you can do a couple reaches with that foam roller, and you can also just hold and chill like I'm doing here and just kind of breathe into that position. You can do this for a couple minutes, really. And again, using that exhale will really help to release that hip. And there'll be probably a moment, like an aha moment, where you're like, I feel that hip releasing. It should feel really nice. So then, and just make sure you get the other side, of course, as well. We don't want to be lopsided. So floor slides are great for stretching the pecs. So if anybody has any limitations with overhead mobility, with those push presses or overhead pressing, this is a great one. Everybody should be doing this, because with all the pushing that we do, push-ups and overhead pressing, we really want to negate all of that tension that's pulling in our pecs that kind of pull our shoulders forward, if that makes sense. So this opens everything up. But that's something you want to be mindful of is you want to keep your back flat on the ground. So as I'm reaching, I'm trying to slide my arms and keep them in full contact with the floor as I exhale. And as I exhale, I'm compressing my rib cage, or I'm letting my rib cage flatten down, if you see that happening. What you don't want to do is lift the rib cage up. So if you're reaching, and the rib cage starts to lift, you've gone far enough for your mobility today, and then you want to bring it back in. Does that make sense? So you don't want an arch or any pocket of air underneath your lower back. Only go as far as you can by keeping the back flat on the ground. So you'll get a better stretch. This upper body twist is magical. You just need a bolster, like a pillow or a foam roller, obviously as demoed here. And then you want to just kind of open up the chest and reach. And if this feels like enough, great. Just like stay here and breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. If you want more, you can go ahead and open up that hand all the way, stretching it toward the wall. I'm about to do that here in a second. And what you don't want to do is you don't want the arm to plop down before the shoulder touches, right? So your priority is to open up the chest so much that both shoulders are actually on the ground. So if both shoulders are on the ground, then that arm can descend down to the ground. I hope that makes sense. So priority is both shoulders. Now this is like the final, most advanced variation. If both shoulders are on the ground, then you can release that upper arm, the opposite arm up to the sky to get that final deep twist in. But don't do that or force that until you have that full mobility of being able to open that chest all the way up. So you get to see this from a different side here so that you can kind of see what your back leg is doing as well. So you're just like cuddling, just like spooning with a foam roller. And here you see this is level 1, level 2, and you can see I'm like really reaching, trying to get that shoulder down on the ground. This side looks a little tighter, right? I'm sure you can see the difference. And it'll take, I'm speeding this up here, but I would recommend staying there until you get that final moment of both shoulders on the ground. This could take a few minutes, just deeply breathing into it. It could take days or weeks of practicing this too. So go to your level, go to your deepest stretch. And again, every day will be different. So you can see I waited until both shoulders were on the floor to bring that opposite arm up. Such a great stretch, beautiful stretch. You might feel some in your hip or your side glute as well, and that's totally normal. So again, just breathing into this position, deep inhale in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. This would be good to do before bed too. It would really calm you down before bed. So we're going to a Bretzel 2.0. Whoa. So you want your legs in two 90-degree angles, and then you're spiraling, rotating over top of that front leg, kind of planting the hands to be parallel with the mat, the edge of the mat, or the edge of your thigh, looking over that left shoulder or that back shoulder. Here in this example, it's my left shoulder. You're going to take that right hand and kind of tuck it underneath the palm to deepen this stretch. Now, if that is like too aggressive, I will show you a modification. You just grab your wrist instead of planting it under your palm, and you're just continuing to look over that shoulder, and the breath here is so important. Deep breath in through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth, and as you exhale, trying to just twist a little bit more, getting a few more degrees of mobility in. You'll feel this across the front of your hip as well, that leg that's back behind you. So don't be alarmed if you feel that stretch in that ab or in that psoas area, that front hip. All right, so a little lateral lunge with a reach. This is going to activate and stretch the adductor. It's just a really great stretch, kind of a nice static stretch while you're, mobilizing the upper body as well. I love this one. It's great to do before working out, and just on its own is a nice stretch. So making sure that knee that is bent, in this example, it's my left knee that's bent now, that knee is not caving in toward the midline. So you always want to make sure it's tracking over your second or third toe. But this whole series is just really great. You could, of course, tack this on as an additional warm-up, or do it separate as a mobility workout on its own in between lifting days. Good luck, guys. Thanks so much for stopping by.